Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. We're going to be looking at some post-ban list Snake Eye today. I'm going to show you how this deck combos post-ban list, and then we're going to take a look at a post-ban list deck, and we'll talk about just how good this deck is going to be going into the new format. I labbed out this combo line on stream live yesterday afternoon with a bunch of folks. The VOD is actually up under the live tab on my channel if you want to check it out. Definitely feel free to do so, but this will be a condensed version of all that research we did, and I'll show you what we discovered. So Snake Eye Ash is still a combo line if you normal summon it. So here we're going to search for it with Bonfire. But yeah, if you open Snake Eye Ash, Bonfire to search it, 1-for-1 to search it, Diabellstar to set OSS, Wanted to search Diabellstar, or OSS plus a hand trap you can normal summon, you can do this combo line. We're going to start by normal summoning the Snake Eye Ash, or again, summoning it through one of various other methods. And we'll use this to add the Poplar from our deck to our hand. This will trigger the Poplar effect, of course, which will allow it to special summon itself, and then once special summoned, the Poplar effect will activate in order to add Divine Temple of the Snake Eye from our deck to our hand, which will of course then subsequently activate. By activating Divine Temple, we can then place our Snake Eye Diabellstar from our deck face up into the spell trap zone. Alright, from here, I'm going to want to link off the Poplar into Linkuriboh. And now we, of course, get to use the Poplar effect in order to place itself from the graveyard into the spell trap zone. Alright, now we're going to use Snake Eye Ash's effect, and I actually want to send exactly the Poplar to the graveyard, because, of course, Oak is banned. We're going directly for Flamberge, and I need 2 level 1 fire monsters in my graveyard in order to get the use out of Flamberge's effect. What we are going to do now is we link off Flamberge and Linkuriboh into Moon of the Closed Heaven. This will, of course, be our pivot into the Fiendmsith line, but on top of that, by linking off the Flamberge, we get to activate the effect and revive the Ash and the Poplar that we just put in the graveyard. Like so. Alright, now we can go ahead and go into Fiendmsith's Requiem using the Moon of the Closed Heaven. Let's activate Requiem's effect. This will allow us to, of course, tribute in order to special summon the Lacrima, the Crimson Tears from our deck. Lacrima effect activates in order to send one of our engravers from the deck to the graveyard. Alright, now let's activate Engraver's Graveyard effect. We're going to put back Moon of the Closed Heaven. And this will allow us to special summon. Okay, from here, let's go ahead and go into the sequence. We'll use both Lacrima and Engraver to do so. And now we can activate the sequence effect in order to fusion summon. We're going to fuse into Fiendmsith's Desiree using all 3 of the Light Fiend monsters that are in our graveyard. Alright, from this point we can go into our Promethean Princess. We'll use Sequence as 2 materials, then one of our leftover fire monsters. Of course, we get to activate the sequence effect now in order to equip to our Desiree. Let's activate Promethean Princess and bring back our Flamberge, but it's really important that you do not put Flamberge in the zone directly under Promethean Princess, because we're going to need to make IP in this zone here. And if you put Flamberge here, you're going to have to use Flamberge as a material, so don't put it here, just put it in any other zone instead. Alright, let's get Snake Eye Diabellstar on the field by placing Poplar from our graveyard into our spell trap zone. And now we're going to want to activate our Desiree's effect in order to negate the effect of our Promethean Princess so that we're no longer fire locked. This will allow us to make the IP Masquerena using Snake Eye Diabellstar and Snake Eye Ash. And then from here we can link those monsters off into our Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. Alright, so this is what our end board is going to look like. Of course, actually, wait, we have to use the Flamberge effect in order to place IP from our graveyard into the spell trap zone. And now this is what our end board looks like. So it's really not that different in the grand scheme of things, but there are a few subtle differences here in our end board, right? The most noticeable one is going to be our Appaloosa. It's only 2 materials instead of 3. If you open, of course, other extenders, you can make an Appaloosa with more materials, but I wanted to show off a true 1-card combo line here. The other issue that we actually have here, though, is this that I touched on earlier, and that's that we don't actually have 2 level 1 fire monsters in our graveyard. We've only got the Snake Eyes Poplar, or rather, we only have the Snake Eyes Ash in the graveyard because our Snake Eyes Poplar is in our spell trap zone. Now, in theory, you could summon Snake Eyes Doom Dragon in order to get it into the graveyard, but that would require us to give up either our sequence and in turn our Death Ray negates, or our IP, and in turn our ability to go into SP Little Knight. I don't think in the grand scheme of things, this is that big of a deal, because the 2 bodies you summon off of Flamberge are really not that important on your opponent's turn anyway. I think the bigger loss here is going to be the materials on your Appaloosa. In terms of this combo line, that is, but in terms of how the deck is built and plays in total, there's a lot that was lost here. In order to expand upon that, though, I'm going to need to show you the deck list that I'm working with, so let's go to that real quick. So here's what our post-ban list build for Millennium Fiendmsith Snake Eye looks like. It's fairly similar to how it was before. In terms of what the main deck and the extra deck, of course, Oak is no longer here. And I did go down to 1 Golem too, naturally. But I wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, let me start out by showing you all the 1-card starters that'll get you to that combo line that I was describing. So again, we can start by normal summoning Snake Eye Ash, or you can go for Diabellstar. That'll set the original Sinful Spoils. Original Sinful Spoils, of course, with any normal summonable hand trap, also leads you to Snake Eye Ash. We have Bonfire, and then we have 1-for-1 to search to Snake Eye Ash, as well as Wanted for Diabellstar. This leaves us with a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 1-card starters. Certainly fewer than the deck had before. The main noticeable one that we lost is Poplar. Poplar is no longer a 1-card combo line, because if you normal summon Poplar and search for original Sinful Spoils, even if you link into Linkuriboh and send off Poplar from the spell trap zone, yeah, you get Snake Eye Ash, but from there, you still only have the 2 bodies on board. You might be wondering, well, Hex, what if you added Snake Eye Birch? Even though Snake Eye Birch does not have the ability to summon Flamberge from our deck during our turn, it has to be during the opponent's turn, this is still an extender that you can search off of Ash and then special summon from your hand. And while that is true, we did also try to lab out that combo line on stream as well. Again, VOD is available if you want to watch the whole thing. And we found pretty quickly that even with adding Birch to our deck as an extender for the Poplar combo line, you still actually can't go full combo. You end up either making Flamberge plus IP or Appaloosa. You actually, from what I could tell, can't do both, again, even if you do add the Birch to search off of Snake Eye Ash to your deck. So, you know, I have to ask myself, is it worth it to include a brick to do half a combo line if I open this 1 card and no other starters? And of course the answer is going to be no. So that's why I did not include Snake Eye Birch in my deck. I still don't think it's worth it. Which actually, there was a chatter that said something really funny yesterday, that all the Snake Eyes cards are limited except for Flamberge or banned, and yet somehow Birch is still not worth playing in this deck. That's actually really funny when you think about it that way. But yeah, the other main issue when it comes to comboing with post-banless Snake Eye in a build like this is that the deck is not nearly as resilient to hand traps as it was before. Droll and Lockbird is a big one. This deck really does not have the ability to play through Droll and Lockbird anymore. The reason that it could before is because you could still go OSS for Oak. Oak would not only get you an extra body, but also Oak could then, of course, go into Flamberge, and that would be enough to pretty typically combo out from there. No longer really the case, because our only thing that can summon Flamberge from deck is also one of our searchers, and often needs to be searched for. So yeah, there's like the fact that Bonfire Search Ash locks us out totally. You know, Wanted for Diabell, trying to go into the Fiendmsith stuff. Like, Droll is no longer something that helps Snake Eye, it is now a complete hindrance to it. Nibiru is also much scarier now. The Oak ban was a little bit indirect in this regard, but a lot of the time when you were comboing with Snake Eye, you could actually leave the Flamberge up pretty comfortably without having to link it off and get the third effect here. And that would kind of be your nib insurance a lot of the time, right? Because if you got nibs, you'd still be able to combo out. But now we need to link off Flamberge fairly early. Again, on stream, we did try to lab a line where we kept the Flamberge in play, but it really didn't solve anything. We still had to link off Flamberge without any way to insulate after a Nibiru, right? Without any way to get more bodies after we get the Nibiru token on a one-card line. So Nibiru also much more devastating to the deck now. Even more minor hand traps. DD Crow, a hand trap which previously wasn't even really considered that often. Well, that's not true. We did see in the wake of the WCQ that this was a very popular tech against the Crystron deck. But this card is also now much better against Snake Eye because Oak previously could summon from the Banish, meaning that even if you did DD Crow something like the Snake Eye Ash, they could just Oak and revive it. Now, however, if DD Crow banishes Snake Eye Ash, that's really bad because that means that Flamberge no longer has 2 level 1 fire monsters to revive. Now you might hear that and think, well, Hex, why don't we just put in another level 1 fire monster into this deck? Wouldn't that solve our problems? And again, we could, in theory, put in like a Snake Eye Birch, for example, to kind of help with, you know, if we open Poplar or if our stuff gets banished. But again, playing bricks in case bad things happen is really not that appealing of an argument to me. It's like, okay, if things go south and this brick card ends up coming up, we're in a bad situation. If we draw this brick card when we're not in a bad situation, well, now we're in a worse situation because we drew one of our bricks, right? So, yeah, I kind of just don't think it's worth it in that rate. I don't think Jet Synchron is at all worth it. I think that is absolutely working backwards. I don't think we try to jam Borload or Baron into this deck. That arguably was never even correct, even when like Ash and Poplar and everything was at 3 and the deck was at full power. I would argue that even then, Jet Synchron probably just wasn't correct, but that's just hindsight, of course, 2020. But for this reason, for the reason that I think that banishing one of your level 1 fires is such a weakness now, and also the fact that this deck barely has combo lines anymore, and also just given how weaker this deck is, even when it does go off, I really think that moving forward, variants of Snake Eye are going to be the way to go. And by that, I'm talking about stuff like, hang on, how do I, there we go, okay. I'm talking about stuff like Fire King, right? Fire King to go into Ponix, or Rescue Ace, I think is going to be another big one, right? Of course, that has the level 1 fire monster in the form of Hydrant. So I think that moving forward, Rescue Ace and Snake Eye or Rescue Ace and Fire King rather, are going to be the way to play Snake Eye. When it comes to Millennium Fiendsmith Snake Eye specifically, I think that this deck and any other more quote-unquote pure version of Snake Eye is just no longer going to be viable. Okay, here's another one that I'm sure people are going to ask about, and I've actually had people ask about. Azamina. Can we not simply play the Azamina engine again? Does that not give us more starters and also help insulate us with the Ilya Sylvia, right? It's really easy to think that, but the thing is that these hits to Snake Eye don't fix the problem with Azamina that made it, I'll just say it, straight up inferior to playing Millennium anyway. I've kind of entertained this for a while as if it were a debate, and while I don't think Fiendsmith Azamina Snake Eye is a bad deck, I will say that the Millennium version was absolutely 100% just better. And it's for a reason that, again, I don't think Azamina is going to be the way to go moving forward, and that's Murishalago having a giant sign taped to her back that says, "Hand trap me." Because if this thing gets hit with Valor or Ash Blossom or Imperm, your combo line, unless you opened an extender, is just going to be done. Like, it's just so much more vulnerable to hand traps, and you have to play a bricky card in the form of Hallowed Azamina just to make your stuff worth it. And it's not even like Murishalaga is the only thing that's vulnerable to hand traps. Deception is also exceptionally vulnerable to hand traps. Ghost Ogre is an extremely popular card right now, and it is extremely good against Deception. For Deception, you have to tribute the monster, and then it gets Ghost Ogred, and now you're down. Like, it's just a -1 for you to not get anything out of it. And again, I don't think Oak being banned fixes any of these problems that the Azamina variant had. Now again, I'm not saying that Azamina Fiendsmith Snake Eye is an awful deck, or was before the bans an awful deck. Not even close, but the Millennium version was, and I think still is, probably just the way to go. If you are going to play this, again, more pure way of playing Snake Eye. I think that you pretty much have to go Fire King or Rescue Ace to really get the full competitive value out of the Snake Eye engine moving forward. Overall, I do think that these are very good changes for the game, and I maintain my point that I think Oak is the best ban that we've had since Tier Limits Melee. I really, really do think that. The Oak ban shows that Master Duel's, design or ban list, construction team, whatever you want to call them, are really valuing keeping as many things viable in the meta as possible, which is a banlist philosophy that I've always valued exceptionally highly, and I really appreciate the team for. So, yeah, I think that these changes are good, and I'm looking forward to see how the meta shakes up as a result. I think that's going to ultimately end up doing it for now. Thanks for joining me in this video. But yeah, let's just go ahead and move on now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.